The death of the pirate officer, traditionally believed to be a Roman centurion, following the crucifixion of Jesus Christ, remains a subject of speculation, imagination, and historical mystery. Many depictions of the events surrounding Jesus' death focus primarily on the suffering of Christ, the reactions of the crowd, the roles of religious leaders, and the ultimate redemption offered by his sacrifice. However, the story of the soldier tasked with overseeing his execution, the one who stood at the foot of the cross and uttered the famous declaration, "Truly, this was the Son of God," is a captivating tale of its own, one that speaks to the themes of repentance, transformation, and the inexorable pull of divine justice. The centurion, often referred to in Christian tradition as a figure of authority under the Roman Empire, was tasked with ensuring that the crucifixion proceeded according to Roman law. His role was clear and grim. He was to oversee the execution of Jesus, a man condemned to die for his perceived threat to the Roman order, a troublemaker of sorts, who stirred unrest among the Jewish population with his radical teachings and claims of divinity. The soldier's purpose, like so many of his peers in the empire, was to ensure law and order, to carry out the orders of his superiors, and to maintain the Pax Romana, the so-called peace that had been secured through military might. The moment Jesus was crucified, the earth itself seemed to respond to the horrific act. Darkness covered the land, and the veil in the Temple of Jerusalem was torn in two. The centurion, accustomed to the brutal and oftentimes grisly nature of his work, must have found these phenomena unsettling. The usual cry of anguish from the crucified would have resonated in his ears, but there was something about Jesus that distinguished him from the others. The way he spoke, the way he responded to his suffering, and especially the words he spoke to those around him, made an impression on the officer that he could not easily forget. The centurion had seen many men die, but none like this. In the midst of the crucifixion, Jesus had addressed those around him with words of forgiveness, even for his executioners. He had prayed to his Father, asking that they be forgiven for they did not understand the magnitude of their actions. He had spoken to a thief on the cross, promising him paradise, and had spoken words of compassion to his mother and disciple, entrusting them to one another's care. These words did not fit the narrative of the hardened criminal, the rebel, or the blasphemer that the centurion had been told to expect. The soldier may have heard the crowd's jeer, but he also heard the prayers, the calm words, and the assertion of Jesus' kingship in the face of death. When the centurion gazed up at Jesus, perhaps amidst the thunder and the unsettling silence that fell after Jesus' final cry, a question must have emerged in his mind. Was this truly the King of the Jews? Was this man, crucified in such a humiliating and painful manner, truly divine? As Jesus breathed his last and the earth shook, the centurion came to a startling realization. He had been overseeing the death of someone who was not merely a man, but the Son of God. His declaration, "Truly, this was the Son of God," would echo across history, signifying a profound moment of recognition, transformation, and, in the centurion's case, a moral awakening that would change the trajectory of his life. The exact fate of the centurion after this moment is not clearly detailed in the scriptures. However, early Christian tradition and various writings suggest that his life underwent a profound transformation after witnessing Jesus' death. In many stories, the centurion is believed to have been one of the first converts to Christianity, a man who recognized the truth of Jesus' divinity and sought redemption for his own soul. His life, once marked by his role in the brutal and unforgiving machinery of the Roman Empire, was now illuminated by the understanding of the great sacrifice he had witnessed. This conversion is symbolic of a larger theme found throughout the Gospels: that Jesus came not only for the righteous but for the lost, the outcasts, and the seemingly irredeemable. The centurion, a figure of authority and violence in the Roman system, stood as a metaphor for the Gentile world, far from the promise of Israel, steeped in pagan practices, and blinded by the oppression of an empire. Yet, in this moment, he found a glimpse of something higher, something that transcended the brutal realities of empire and warfare. It is said that after witnessing Jesus' death, he recognized the error of his ways and turned his life toward Christ. The death of the centurion, however, is as enigmatic as his life. Over the centuries, many have wondered what fate awaited him. Some speculate that, having witnessed such a momentous event, he went on to become an advocate for Christ, perhaps even joining the early Christian community in spreading the gospel. His conversion would have carried significant weight, not only as a personal transformation but also as a testament to the universal reach of Jesus' message. If a Roman soldier, a man whose hands had been stained by the blood of many innocents, could come to embrace the truth of Christ, then surely others could as well. Others, however, suggest a darker ending. It is not beyond reason to consider that the centurion, despite his moment of clarity, might have ultimately perished in the ways typical of those who had come into conflict with the imperial power. The Roman Empire was not known for its mercy toward those who abandoned their posts, defied orders, or turned to a new and dangerous religious movement. As a soldier who had defied the expectations of his superiors and voiced such an outlandish claim, it is plausible that the centurion could have met an untimely end. What stands out, however, is the idea that the centurion's death would not have been ordinary. Having once been the enforcer of a brutal system, he may have faced an equally brutal fate, but it would be a death that had been transformed by his encounter with the divine. In his final moments, it is possible that the officer found himself facing not just the certainty of death, but also a deeper understanding of its purpose. He had witnessed the death of the Son of God, an act that was, paradoxically, a means of salvation for the world. In this light, the centurion's death could be seen not as the end of a life consumed by violence but as a moment of transition, a passage from ignorance to understanding, from cruelty to grace. The death of the centurion, when viewed in this manner, is not so much a tragic end as it is a culmination of a deeper spiritual journey. It serves as a reminder that redemption is not reserved for the righteous alone, but extends even to those whose lives seem entrenched in sin, violence, and moral compromise. The centurion's transformation represents the radical inclusivity of the Christian message, the idea that no one is beyond the reach of God's grace, not even those who have been responsible for acts of great injustice. In this way, the story of the centurion's death is not only a reflection on the transformative power of encountering Christ but also an illustration of the broader narrative of redemption that unfolds throughout the New Testament. It is a story that highlights the profound impact that a single encounter with the divine can have on an individual, no matter their past or their position in society. For the centurion, Jesus' death became the key to unlocking a new way of seeing the world, a world that, for all its suffering and violence, was still capable of redemption. The legacy of the centurion, then, is not just in his words, but in the potential for transformation that his story represents. For all his authority and power, for all the brutality and violence that he might have once embraced, he stood witness to the greatest act of love the world would ever know. The death of the centurion, whether immediate or delayed, symbolizes the possibility of redemption, of change, of a new beginning, an ending that, in the end, is not truly an end at all but a beginning of something much greater than what he had known before. Ultimately, the pirate officer, the centurion, died like all men must, but in his death, there was a recognition, an acknowledgement of something far beyond his own mortality. His life, once defined by the power and authority of Rome, was now marked by the transformative power of the cross. In this way, the centurion's death is an eternal testament to the possibility of redemption, even for those who might appear furthest from grace. It is a reminder that, through Christ, even the most hardened hearts can find a path to salvation, and even in the darkest moments of death, there is the possibility of a new dawn. We've gotten to the end of this video. If you find this video interesting, kindly like, subscribe to get more videos like this.